I want to thank you for joining me on this message on a city under attack. And each of us as a city are under the attack by Satan and our flesh almost on a daily basis, trying to keep us in sexual sin, continually tempting us and coming against us. And so I want to describe real quick about a city that's without walls. And in Proverbs 25:28, it reads, "He that have no rule over his spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls." And so when you think about a city that's broken down and without walls, it's defenseless. It cannot defend itself against any army, against people, wild animals, and even certain type of natural disasters that may come upon it. It's defenseless to protect itself against it. And so those of us that cannot rule our spirit, our life, then we find ourselves in that position. And so this is going to be the final full lesson that we have this week in our video series. Our next one on a life action plan is just going to be a quick overview. But I want to capture what it means for us being a city without walls and how we can build up our defenses, because many of us operate almost daily where our walls are being attacked, our lives are being attacked all the time, but we're really not paying attention to it. We think oftentimes that when we get engaged in pornography or actually sleep with a woman, that's like the sin that we commit. But many of us commit sexual sin long before that we look at pornography or we actually engage in some type of sexually illicit activity. It begins long before that. And it begins in those areas like going down to the gym, watching TV and social media, things like that, things that we may be engaged in every day that keep us under attack. And that's what Satan and our flesh are looking to do. Satan is roaming around like a lion, seeking whom he can devour, seeking to tempt us and to keep us in this perpetual state of sexual sin, this temptation, sin, and repentance, to keep us in this cycle rather than us being holy and living set apart from the world, set apart from sin. But many of us look to engage in the world and looking for the world for enjoyment. But what we have to realize is that the world is not looking to help us live godly. It's looking to gratify sensual, worldly desires. That's what it's out to do. But we're looking for the world to help us, to give us this entertainment. But the entertainment that's out there, or the things that we engage in on a daily basis, is not meant, or is not geared toward, its premise is not geared to help us live in a holy lifestyle. But we continue to engage the world for different reasons, seeking whether it's help, exercise, vacations, rest. We seek all these things, but in those places we find different tempting situations that continue to wear down and continue to attack our walls to bring them down so that we may engage in sexual sin. And so it often comes time, as I talked about with the gyms, there's men and women that are often dressed in tight, revealing clothing. They want to show their muscles, they want to show their body, they want to show what they look like. And so sometimes we don't pay attention how that's feeding us. And we go to the gym, and so when I go to the gym, often when I was going to a home gym, when I was going to a club gym, then I'm just going to work out. My brain really isn't focused on trying to combat sexual temptation and looking at, or trying not to look at women. So I'm just lifting weights, and then there's a woman that walks by that's scantily dressed. And so now I'm starting to try to fight off sexual sin, sexual temptation, because I don't want to look at the woman lustfully. And so then someone else comes by, and so I'm just trying to work out, but there it is, I'm being tempted and I'm being bombarded with sexual temptation. And then we think about watching television. There's a lot of shows that we watch that continually feed that like sexual images, sexual desires, and trying to drive out and try to increase lust within us, the sexual desires. And many of us don't realize that. It's not always about men and women that are naked running around. Sometimes there are men and women that just wear their shirt off, or they have tight clothes, revealing clothes, and which creates this sexual desire. And oftentimes when we're watching television, there may be some people, even with me, there are times where I'm watching a show and you see a certain woman that looks a certain way and you're like, man, this looks good on this woman, or I like the way that look. And before you know it, you begin to lust after this person in your heart. You're committing adultery against them. Your spouse could be right next to you, not realizing that you're already engaging in sexual sin. And then you get to a place in social media. Social media, we have friends and different people that we follow that wear very tight clothing, or they show friends that wear very tight clothing. And we may find ourselves at times just finding those individuals scrolling through to see what those people are doing, or they're just on our news feed. And so we just watch the news feed and we're being continually fed with these different images. Again, breaking down those walls, keeping us like sexually engaged instead of us being holy and set apart. Because even when we go on vacation, you go on vacation, you want your mind to rest, but oftentimes in those areas, there are women and men that are wearing very little clothing, very revealing clothing, and keeping us in this state of sexual sin. So sexual temptation and sexual sin. So what happens, like at the gym, I'm sitting here, you're trying to combat these different temptations all of a sudden, but then some of us, you get tired because you keep going, you keep getting attacked over and over and over again. Sooner or later, you may turn around and say, you know what, that does look good. This is good. And you begin to lust after them because you're getting so tired because of the attacks that come upon you. And there comes a time when we have to say that I'm going to live set apart from all the stuff that's going on. I'm not going to continue to give in to these things over and over and over again. That I'm going to seek to live for God because I have to keep my heart with all diligence, for out of it comes the issues of life. They flow out. And so I have to keep it with all diligence because, as I talked about before, the heart is the center of the thoughts and our feelings. And so I have to really protect that. And so there comes a time when, if I'm talking about ruling our spirit, when I talk about Proverbs 25:28, when I'm talking about ruling our spirit, that means I'm going to be in control of what's going on in my life. I'm in control of what I see, what I hear, and what I experience. And so there comes a time in our lives when I'm going to have to say that maybe I stop going to the gym. Maybe I stop watching certain TV shows. Maybe I stop following certain people on social media. And for me, one of the most memorable moments came probably about 2007. I was in Hawaii, and every time I went to the mall, I was being bombarded with all these images. You know, a lot of women are wearing bikinis all the time at the mall, very little clothing. And so I'm not going to the mall to lust after women. I'm going to look at a pair of shoes. But then, you turn to the right, there's a woman. You turn to the left, there's another woman. You look up, there's a tall woman. You look down, there's a short woman. And it got to the place where I told my wife that I couldn't go to the gym, to the mall anymore. I just said, look, I have to stop going because I'm being bombarded with all these images. Okay, sooner or later, my defenses may get so low that my wall begins to come down so much that I'm just going to give in. And sooner or later, I'm going to look at this woman and says, yeah, she looks really good. And then I begin to lust after her in my heart. I begin to walk in sexual sin, and I'm not looking at pornography at this time, but I'm lusting after a woman. And then, as I said, like with television shows, there's certain television shows that you and I can't watch. Now, there are some shows clearly you shouldn't be watching. Like, okay, I know good and well that show I shouldn't watch. But just as I said before, there are some times when you're sitting around somewhere and you see a show that you're like, man, I like the way this woman looks. I like the way this man looks. And you begin to lust after them. Nobody knows. Your whole family could be watching television with you. Nobody knows but you and the Lord that you're lusting after this person. And again, you're looking at people at the gym. You may have looked at some people at the mall somewhere. Now on television, you're again still feeding that lust, feeding that sexual sin and temptation. Is just driving you and driving you. So you're already walking in sexual sin. And so sometimes we think that it's just like the pornography, that final act. But long before that, for some of us, that pornography or sleeping with another man or woman, that's like the icing on the cake. We've already made the cake by all the things that we've done already. But some of us, like with me, there'll come a time where I looked at all these women on social media and things. It just gets to a point where I say, you know what, I want to now look at the same type of woman or same shape of a woman naked. So I'm going to watch pornography. Or some people say, I've been walking around or hanging around this certain person, somebody that's flirting with you all the time, somebody that has no good intentions, that you shouldn't be around, but you continue to be around them. Sooner or later you say, you know what, I like to go out and just hang out for some coffee, knowing that coffee, that $2 coffee, or how much you're gonna spend on that coffee is gonna cost you a lot more than what you paid for. And so, but you know that, but we continue to stay around those areas instead of moving ourselves away, instead of fleeing useful lust. And so to flee useful lust, that means we have to make some decisions. We have to choose to walk away. That there means there's a lot of television shows that I had to stop watching, because I knew that as I'm sitting there looking at these shows, I'm lusting after women. And sometimes it happens like it's almost on autopilot. You don't even realize, you're like, oh, that woman looks attractive. Oh, that man looks attractive. And then all of a sudden, if you don't take care of that thing, you say, okay, look, I can't watch this show no more. Because you may go on show after show after show, season after season, lusting after a woman or a man, already committing sin within your heart. You're already sinning against the Lord. You're thinking about the pornography, not realizing that some of the social media, some of the places you go, some of the things you do on a daily basis are keeping you engaged in sexual sin. Because we're not ruling our spirit, because we don't have that self-control, and we're not choosing to walk away from some things. Because in the world, what we're being taught is that you want to relax. You need to have a good time, and you need to spend some time, some downtime, and we all want to turn our minds off. Because I get that way too. There's some times when I want to just turn it off. You go on vacation. You go on vacation. The last thing that you want to do on vacation is fight off sexual temptation. But I've had to do that. I go on a cruise, and then again, the same thing. I'm looking to the left. There's somebody looking to the right, looking down. And so it begins to wear you down. I remember going on a cruise with my wife. We went on a 3-day cruise, and then we spent some time in Orlando. And then by the time, like probably day 5 of the trip, I knew that I wasn't in a good place, and that I had to get out of some of the common areas, because I was my walls were continuing to come down, because I was continually being attacked, and I was getting tired. And so I was getting tired of fighting. We talk about that fighting and standing, but we don't always realize or pay attention to what's going on. So we just keep watching TV. We keep remaining in these same conversations. We wind up hanging around the people that we know that's tempting us. We know what their motives are. We know their motives are not good, but we stay in those places instead of making the decision to walk away. Making the decision, that's the part that comes down to holiness. When you're talking about fearing God and loving God, when I talk about that commitment and the commitment that we have and the moral reverence, that means that I'm going to have to show, when that commitment, that means there's going to have to be a sacrifice. I'm going to have to sacrifice something. And oftentimes it's going to be that club gym membership. I had to stop. I said, you know what? I'm just going to buy a home gym. Best money ever spent. I don't have to worry about looking at half-naked women because I want to work out. I'm just trying to work out and be healthy. I don't want to have that other issue. So I'm just going to choose to separate myself from those places. When you're talking about social media, if you follow me on social media as a man or woman and you have half-naked women on there, you can guarantee that I do not follow you. I mean, we may still be friends on social media, but I've unfollowed you. I don't follow your news feed. I'm not going to look at it because I don't want to continue to have my news feed filled with half-naked people, half-naked women. I don't want to look at it. And so that's temptation. I don't want to keep there because I want to walk in sexual purity. I want to walk in holiness. So that means I have to separate myself from some things. The same thing with television shows. I don't watch a lot of television, especially commercials come on. I just pause it, walk out the room. I'm not paying attention. I don't want to, those things are continuing to feed us with worldliness. So we have to be very cautious about what we allow into our souls, what we take in, what we see, hear, and experience. That means I'm gonna have to walk away. That may mean I may even have to stop going on cruises, and I like going on cruises. There's some things that I want to do. There's some places I want to go. Some people that I would like to talk to. But those people, places, and things aren't going to keep me walking in a manner of holiness, and all they're going to do is keep my walls down to where I'm defenseless. I'm like a broken down city where I'm under the attack all the time, and anytime that Satan is ready or my flesh is ready, I just turn over and give in instead of standing on God's word and making the decision to walk away. And so on this day, you too are going to have to choose. Are you going to certain places that keep you in sexual sin? Are you watching certain television shows? Because you know, and the Lord knows whether or not certain television shows are tempting you sexually. You'll know as soon as you start saying, that looks real good. That's a sign that you probably need to stop watching those television shows. Do you go on vacations that keep you perpetually in sin? Do you talk to people that keep you, that tempt you? You know that they're throwing throwing out the bait to see if you'll catch it. They're throwing out different words and different comments, and they're doing different things, and you're going out to eat with them, and you're doing things that you know you shouldn't, that you know that you're playing a dangerous game. We're playing with fire, you're going to get burned. That is for sure. So you have to make those decisions to say, you know what? If I want to live holy unto God, then I'm going to have to walk away from these things. I cannot give any place to the devil. You cannot give any place to him. He doesn't need, when it says a place, it's like a small piece. He doesn't need a lot of room to operate with. You don't need to give him everything. Don't give place to the devil. You give him an inch, he's taking more than a mile. He's taking it all. He wants it all. And so we have to turn and give him no place and fill our lives, hide the word in our heart so that we don't sin against God. And we want to make sure that we're keeping our heart with all diligence, that we're concerned and really watching after what we do, what we see, what we hear, and what we experience. And if you look at your life, you may realize if you took like 1 or 2 weeks, and I want to challenge you with that, to take a couple weeks and to really monitor and cut down how much television you watch, the social media, the places that you go, and the things that you're watching and engaging in, and the people that you're going to, you may see that your soul will become a lot quieter. You'll be a lot more sensitive to the different things that come across the sexual temptation. And you may find that there's a huge difference in how you were and how you are right now when you begin to cut those things out of your life. And so I challenge you with that today, and I pray that you'll take the time to take that assessment and realize that those things that are in the world, because being a friend of the world and wanting all the joys of the world will keep us as an enemy of God. And we don't want to be an enemy of God. We want to be a friend of God, and we want to walk in sexual purity so that we may live with God for all eternity. So I pray God will bless you through this message. I pray that you'll take some time to review this lesson again. I have some more information in the book about this chapter and the other 2 chapters, because I'm not going to go over the bodybuilding and the military support chapters. I'll kind of cover that a little bit in our next video on a life action plan. But if you have any questions, comments, and concerns, I pray God will bless you. I pray that this message right here will unlock some things to help you realize that you may have been tempted a lot more than you think. And if you calm those things down and you cut those things out, you will see that it'll be a lot easier for you to bear and to endure temptation. But when you're always surrounding it by it, and sometimes we're keeping ourselves in the midst of sexual temptation and sin. We're walking into it, and we live in that environment where it's always bringing the walls down. They can never come up to a place where they're solid and we can keep them and maintain a level of sexual purity. They may come up, but then as soon as they're up, we bring them right back down because we're engaging in sexual temptation, or we're keeping ourselves in areas of sexual temptation. And so I pray God will help you through this. I pray he'll reveal some things to you from here that you really take a deep assessment. It may take you back to your square one. So you may need to go back to square one and some of the information that you wrote, because you may find out that some of the patterns that that Satan and your flesh are using is through the places you go, the things that you watch, the people you experience. And so you may need to write a little bit more information out to help you design a plan to where you can endure sexual temptation, you can overcome, and so you do not sin sexually. So I pray God will bless you abundantly. If you have any questions, concerns, again, just hit me up. And until the next time, may God bless you abundantly. God bless.